Hi, this is Sarah Pope Joy, and we're having another coffee with Sarah, and we're so lucky, very, very lucky today to have Shannon Curtis. Thank you so much for joining us, Shannon. And she's a dream pop songwriter, and how she describes her music, and she's an amazing songwriter and a really amazing performer, and also an amazing marketer. Has some really great ideas of things she's used to really connect with people in a really unique way. And so we're just lucky to have her here today. Thank you so much, Shannon, for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
Well, thank you. And so first, I think I'm going to kind of go back with, or start off with some of the things you've been releasing lately, and then we'll talk about your book a little later. Okay. I recently saw a video of yours just this week on from a song called "I Know, I Know," and and saw that a portion of that was going to Depression Bipolar Support Alliance. And if you could just talk a little bit about that song and the inspiration for that and how it came about.
Yeah, absolutely. So that song is the first single that we released for a new album of mine that's coming out in June. And I knew that was going to be the first single. The song itself is a song about empathy. It's a song about listening to somebody's, deep, dark stuff and being able to access your own emotions in a way that says, I understand you because I've been there too, or feeling empathy on a deep level. And so that's right. The thrust of the song, which really, and I know we're going to get to talking about house concerts and stuff later on, but I want to mention that it was really out of some experiences that we had on my summer house concert tour last year that sort of I can draw a direct line to the writing of that song. One of the things that I discovered that was happening on our tour last summer, we did 60 house concerts all over North America last summer. And one of the things that I noticed that was happening on a lot of nights is that there would be like one or two people hanging around at the end of a house concert after most people had left, and they were hanging around by the merch table waiting to talk to me. And then they would share with me some really, significant things from their lives. Can I tell you how my husband just left me 2 weeks ago? Can I tell you how I'm battling breast cancer? Can I tell you how I've suffered depression for the last 15 years? And these are people who I didn't know before that day.
Right.
Relative strangers, and yet they felt like they wanted to share with me. And it was a really interesting dynamic because I've been performing music for a long time, but this is a new phenomenon. And I think that there was something about the space of the house concert, the intimacy that we had shared over music, and having done a performance in such a way that really kind of opened myself up vulnerably in a vulnerable way to the audience. I think that they felt that they had seen me and that they wanted me to see them, in sharing their stories. It was sort of a reciprocal sort of thing. So take that experience, and I started writing songs and thinking about what my next album was going to be last fall. And I really dove hard into the work of Dr. Brene Brown. I don't know if you have discovered her stuff. She's a social work researcher on the topic of vulnerability. And this was something that was really triggered by my experience in house concerts last year. And then just lots of thoughts about empathy, lots of thoughts about listening to one another's stories and connecting with one another in that way, and that there's real power when we do that. That's where the song I Know came from. And then when I conceived of the video, you said you saw the video, and for those who haven't seen it, it's I asked my community, I said, will you contribute to this video project? I have this idea. If you will videotape yourself holding up a sign to the camera, just telling your story, some struggle that you've been through, some challenge that you're currently facing, with the idea that people who see you holding up your sign, who are experiencing something similar, will be able to see you and think, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. Like that was sort of the gist of the video.
Yeah, that video is really, really
When
amazing.
we started the project, there was an overwhelming response from people who have have struggled with depression, bipolar, mood disorders, a lot of PTSD, a lot of people who've struggled with suicide over, the course of their life. And this is not, I didn't ask specifically for those experiences. I just asked people to share their struggles in general. But there was such a high percentage of people who were sharing things around those topics. And so that's what went into the video, and then the decision to send some of the proceeds of the sale of the song to the Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance came directly from the response we got from the video, from the people who had sent in, and there was this big representation of those issues in the video itself. But then also once the video was released, the number of people who were responding to it, who do suffer depression, who do suffer bipolar, who are living with these mood disorders, really reacting strongly. We thought, well, gosh, this is a natural outgrowth of, it makes sense for us to give back to an organization that's helping people in a real way, helping people connect, around their struggles in a way that's going to help them find health and healing. So that's the long story of the video. But it was not premeditated. It was something that sort of like came naturally out of it, I guess is what I wanted to say.
That's really cool. And I think what's really neat and what really struck me about the video when I watched the video, watching it for the first time, is that because you see the first few people, and then because it's a longer process of a song, instead of like say a 30-minute commercial or something, but you're watching this through the whole song. And it's like you start to see these people, and then you start to see people who you're like, that kind of reminds me of so-and-so, or like, there are people who you wouldn't, if they weren't holding up that sign, you would think maybe otherwise have it all together, who aren't going through these struggles, who aren't, who don't have these things going on. And we just, we see each other and know we're not holding up these signs, right. But, I don't know. It was just, I thought it was really powerful.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've seen a lot of people respond to is like, these people look like quote unquote normal people, Yeah. And we are. We are all normal people, and yet we tend to look at other people and just from the way that they look and say, oh, they surely must have it all together.
Right.
But
right.
It was a big revelation that even though we may look like we have it all together, each of us is carrying something, Yeah.
Well, that's really, really cool. That's really, really cool. And I think it's cool that you're giving, a portion to the depression and bipolar. I mean, it's if there's anybody who needs help with connections, it's, and for people to reach out to them and things. So that's really great. And so about connections, tell us a little bit more about your new album.
Yeah, so the new album is called Connections, and it's coming out June 16th. And it really is like, I know is sort of a thesis statement for the album. It's not like a concept album or anything, but it really is exploring a lot of the things that connect us to one another. Right. That we find connection with other humans when we share our struggles, when we share our vulnerabilities, when we share the dreams that are hard to talk about that we have. Those are the things when we share them with other people, we find true connection with other human beings. And I think that that's one of the reasons I love music is that it's for which we make connections with other people. And so that's really the theme of the album. And so I know is really sort of like the thesis statement to the rest of it. And so, yeah, that's what the record's going to be about.
I think, when you talk about that too, I as a songwriter, I think that was one of the things that really got me to really focusing on performing and going from just, recording and trying to get other people to cut stuff to, hey, I really want to do this, because there's something extremely powerful in the connections and the connecting with people. So it's really a great idea and great title for an album.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a strange thing to be an artist, right? Like I feel like for a lot of my career, I've sort of been trying to figure out, what are my motivations for doing this? You know, like there are some people who as a kid, like, I want to be a rock star because I want to be on stage and be famous. And, you know, there's that. But, you know, like for those of us who stick with it for years and make it our life work, there really has to be something more than that kind of motivation in order to, because it's hard. It's really hard work to work as an artist. And so I think for me, I've had to really find what it is that is, you know, what are sort of the deeper intrinsic reasons why I'm doing this, not like some, you know, childhood, you know, fantasy of being a singer, you know. But,
exactly.
But what is it about the art? What is it about the real impact one is having in the world, you know? And so for me, that is what it's all about, is connecting with people.
That's cool. Really cool. So, regarding your house concerts, which is how I found about you first, is stumbled upon a video of yours talking about putting together house concerts. And of course, the title is going to, you know, catch your attention.
The goal.
Did not make $25,000 off house concerts. I know you did. But you know, that's your first instinct that goes through your head. Like, but then I see your video and I hear you talking about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, smart. So just tell us, and not just smart, but really cool. And like you're talking about having another motivation besides just being a, you know, kind of really taking it there to what you were talking about. So just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, you know, doing house concerts was never something that I had planned on doing in my career. That's not how you know, I've done years of the traditional kind of touring where I'm playing in coffee houses and clubs. Right. And, you know, I've done that. And I was seeing a little tiny bit of very slow growth, you know, when I was doing that. Little, you know, a couple names on my email list here and there, a few CDs sold each night, not making, you know, very much money, but just enough to sort of like skate by on tour. The house concert thing was accidental at first. So there was a woman who follows my music in San Diego, and I live in Los Angeles. And this woman in San Diego sent me an email back in 2011, and she said, "You haven't played in San Diego in a while. You should come here. You could play in my living room and we could take donations for the show." And I'm like, okay. Like, you know, it was out of the box, but I thought, well, sure, it could be fun. You know, surely we'll have a good time. Surely we'll at least make enough in gas money to make it worth my time to go there. And we'll just, you know, it'll be a fun Friday night thing. We'll go do it. Well, when I went to do it, it was just the most amazing experience. The show itself was so unlike any club show I had done in any recent memory. It was, you know, when you're at a club or a coffee house, you're competing with distractions in the room, the coffee grinder going off, talking at the bar, you know, you're constantly fighting for people's attention. But in this woman's living room, there was a room full of people who were hanging on every word, who had come specifically for the music. And so it became this really just like, not to overuse the word, but connective experience, you know, where we were just having this wonderful exchange. So as a performer, it was just the most fulfilling performance experience I'd had in such a long time. And then on top of that, we made way more than gas money. And so it was kind of this like lightning bulb moment where I was like, oh, that's interesting. You know, we could actually make money doing this too. And so I decided to experiment with doing more of these house concerts over the coming months. In the next like 5 months after that initial house concert, I had a very sort of rigorous club scheduled for myself. I was going to do 5 West Coast cities once a month for 5 months in a row. And the West Coast is very big, and there's a lot of...
Yeah, I know. I've looked at it before. I'm like, oh, gee, I'm glad I'm over here in Tennessee.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, like, there's just really big distances between Seattle, Portland, the Northern California, Southern California. It's just a large span. So that was a pretty treacherous schedule, but I was really sort of trying to double down on, like, let's build my fan base in these clubs, you know, let's play in these cities as though I'm a local and try and build the fan base that way. And
Right.
but because we were trying to maximize our turnout at the clubs, I was booking shows on the weekends in the clubs, and then had all this extra time that
Oh
I
yeah,
didn't want to be
yeah.
sitting idle. So I was like, oh, well, let's experiment with booking some house concerts as filler dates on this club tour.
Right.
And at the end of the 5 months, we discovered that on every single metric, from the enjoyment that we were having to the names on my email list, to the number of CDs I was selling, to the money we were making, I mean, in every single regard, the house concerts outperformed the club dates. And so
Wow.
that was just an amazing revelation. It was not, again, not something that I had planned, but something that we discovered by accident, followed because it made sense, and then it sort of became its own thing. And I think that one of the things that that has made the model really powerful for us is, and I know that there's a very well established like house concert tradition in the United States, right? There's like a network of people who host house concerts. That's
Yeah.
not yeah, that's not what we're talking about here. The people who are hosting my house concerts are not people who host house concerts. They are people who support my music, or people who know me and support me as a human being. And then I work with them to create an event where they invite their communities to come. So, 99% of the house concert hosts that I've worked with over the last few years have never hosted a house concert before,
So
have never been to a house concert before.
so were
Go
they
ahead.
so were they like so you most of these people who had the house concerts you already knew. Some of
Some of
them.
them, some of them I knew, and then there were a bunch that had discovered my music on Pandora, for instance, and had gotten on my email list at some point. But then I would send out an email to that region. Okay, Seattle area people, we're going to be in your area this week, and we're
Okay.
looking for house concert hosts who'd like to host. So actually, I got to meet a lot of people for the very first time who I'd never
That's
met before. Yeah. So it was just a way to engage, those listeners in a way that have made them not only like really engaged and enthusiastic supporters, but also friends. Like, we've developed really wonderful relationships with people through this method. But I think that that's the big key, is to know, as we continue to talk about these house concerts, it's not that I'm going and playing the established house concert circuit that exists in our country. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not playing
Well,
any of those.
I have to be honest with you because I don't now, mind you. I was when I was touring, it was a few years back, but the even though house concerts were getting popular, um, the actual people who were actually doing them on a consistent basis were not that many. I mean,
Right.
it's not. You would have to like go from across the country, and that doesn't really make much sense monetarily.
Exactly. And and God bless those people who do regular
Oh
house
yeah.
concerts. I mean, like, it's a wonderful thing. But it's the same sort of scarcity relationship that we have with clubs, with booking club dates or coffee house dates.
Right.
There's a small number of people who do it. You're competing with other artists to get on their calendar, and then you're playing to the same audiences that that they draw to their monthly shows or their bi-monthly shows or whatever they do.
And the thing is too, you also, you've got certain clubs who don't want you playing at other places within a certain amount of time.
Right.
So which at a house concert, that's not like you're
No,
competing.
not at all, because essentially what we're doing, because in my model, somebody who hosts a house concert, they are the ones that are responsible for bringing the guests. So I'm not advertising.
Right.
It's not open to the public. It's essentially a private event for that host and their circle of family, friends, community, neighbors, and I work with them to help them create a successful event, with that group of people. But what that means is that really each new house that you go to, you're creating a new little market that's not competing with anybody else, even in the same city. This summer, for instance, on our summer house concert tour that I'm currently in the midst of planning, we're going to be in the Seattle area for like 8 days and doing like 6 or 7 house concerts in the Seattle area. You would never go to a city and play 7 shows in one city in 1 week. right? Because like what you're saying, there's the non-compete kind of stuff that venues don't want you playing, but it doesn't matter because we're going to have 7 different markets of people in that area. And so
it's great.
Yeah. It is great. It is great. Well, I know you probably have more questions, but things keep popping into my head. One of the reasons that we're doing 7 house concerts in Seattle also is because this model has a way of sort of becoming viral, in a way that we'll go to somebody's house and do a house concert, and not very many people have experienced this before.
Right.
Concert that is. And so they'll come as guests and they'll be like, oh my gosh, this was the coolest thing I've done in the longest time. Will you come to my house next time you're on tour? And they have they have their own unique group of people that they can invite. And so this is what tends to happen is we see, we'll be in Houston for 3 nights this summer because our very first time in Houston, we had 1 house concert that's now 3.
I see what you're saying.
And so it really, what I think is exciting about this model for artists, and the reason that we wrote the book to be able to empower people to do it, is that we're not competing with one another. We're not trying to eat each other's lunch. As artists, we can essentially use our community of supporters to grow our careers, to grow our community.
Because that is such a great point that you're showing about being at a house concert and then someone else wanting you to perform at their house. And the reason why I wanted to really highlight that is because you got to think about this as an artist. You're not going to go to a club and there's going to be a whole bunch of other club owners there to invite you to play at their. That doesn't happen.
No.
But so that is something very special that you mentioned. That some people may not realize how big a deal that is, and that is huge.
It is huge. It's been all the difference in the world. Because there are a lot of people who love music, who just aren't the kind of people that go to live music venues to see live music, but go to their friend's living room, absolutely, or their friend's backyard, no problem.
That's true. That's true, because you got the people who aren't really, the social butterflies or whatever, and they don't want to go out to the club.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I think that is another powerful thing about this model is it's the accessibility of it. We've really tried to make it so that just about anyone who wants to can host a house concert. And so we've tried to remove all of the barriers, from doing it. And so from in my model, and this is still true for the tours that I book for myself, if you would like to host a house concert for me, you just need to have a place to gather. And this could be your living room. It could be a backyard if it's the summertime, which is when we do our big tour. A place to gather and a minimum number of 20 adults to attend. And there's no upfront fee. We don't charge a ticket price. We do that all on an open donation basis. And we can talk about more of that if you'd like to. But basically, I want to strip away all of the reasons why people would say, oh, I can't do that. I want people to think, yes, I can do this. Oh, I've got a backyard and I can get 20 people to come over. All right, let's do this.
Yeah.
And so giving people the accessibility to be able to do it, and then putting on an amazing event. And, we've got hosts who have us back every single year. It's become like an annual event. Their friends are like, when's the Shannon Curtis concert happening? Because and I don't want to miss it, so we're just bringing a new thing into people's lives in a way that makes it doable for them to do, and turning that into success for my career as an artist.
That's awesome. That is really awesome. And so people can, I'm going to have a link below this video where people can get your book.
Awesome.
As well, because I know that I'm going to be downloading it tonight.
Well, I had so many artists asking me after we did, in 2012, we had a 50-show nationwide house concert tour that was remarkably successful. And that's where the title of the book, How I Made $25,000 on a 2-month house concert tour,
Right.
that summer is what that title is based on. And I had so many artists who were like, how did you do that? Like, can you hook me up? And I'm like, well, I'm not going to introduce you to the people who hosted my shows because it would be a breach
not
of that relationship. But I will give you every single detail of all the things that I have learned that make this work in the most successful possible way and empower you to go do this for yourself. And honestly, that's how it's going to be most successful for another artist, is for them to reach into their own communities to develop it. It honestly wouldn't work as well for them if they contacted my hosts. You know, like
it really wouldn't at all, because they would just, you would wear those people out. And the whole idea is connecting with people, like you said, and and then also the different styles of music out there too. It would be different types of people who would like different types of stuff. So
right. There's a lot of power in somebody who is a fan of you as a person or a fan of you as a musician being able to tell their friends, oh my gosh, guess what? Sarah's coming to my house, and she's gonna play. You've got to come see her. It's the starting connection point with the one person who then becomes sort of your ambassador to their communities.
Right.
Reap those people as new,
Yeah. That's really, really amazing. And I mean, well, like you said, it happened organically, but it's so cool, just how that progressed, and just the whole idea of it, and how you just kind of kept with it. That's I just love it, because I really one thing on our website that we do on Musicians Empowered is our goal is to help musicians sustain themselves, and also just be able to do what they love, and do it in a way that's impactful. And I really feel like that, from what I've heard of your book, from the video that I saw of you earlier, that this is just another thing that to me can help artists and really be impactful, is another way of looking at things, another way of connecting with people and being able to share your music. So that's just really, really cool. And I know you've got a whole lot more of the specific how-tos within the book, like what you mentioned earlier, but more in depth and stuff. So I encourage everybody to get her book, because it's just I think it's a lot of great information, and a lot of really great principles too, as well, that I think can kind of be used across the board as well. But I just want to, I think we're probably going to wrap it up, but I want to thank you so much, Shannon, so much for joining us, and for joining me, or Coffee with Sarah. Really cool. And I just give you, oh yes, I remembered. I knew there was one more thing I wanted to say. Yeah. I wanted to give you kudos for actually taking the information of what you were able to practically do and sharing it with other artists, because I know you're selling your book and everything, but there's a lot of people who don't want to share their stuff, or they think they're being competitive. And so just the fact that you're actually sharing this information and putting it out there says a lot about you. And so I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you. I think that honestly, and I hear what you're saying. I mean, I've been a musician for a long time, and there does tend to be sort of a competitive attitude in this industry, that right. I can't tell you my secrets, because then maybe I won't be as successful. And it's, A, that's ridiculous, and B, the thing is with the house concerts, there are over 300 million people in this country.
You're right.
Like, we're really not going to eat each other's lunch. Like, there's no reason why I can't empower other people to go and create this for themselves. And I think it's going to be good for us, for our society as a whole, the more people have experiences like this. We've become so detached from music, in ways that, I can just swipe this app on my phone and whatever music I want to listen to is free anywhere, anytime, right? You know, like we have this,
Yeah.
there's so many forces at play in our culture that are telling us that art, that music is content, and that it's, you know, that we're very disconnected from it all. It's just this background noise in our lives.
Right.
Concert is the exact opposite of that notion. We're getting deep and making like strong connections with people over music and giving them an opportunity to assign value, the value that they place on that experience in their lives, you know, by saying, I'm going to be part of this, I'm going to donate to this artist because they've brought me this experience via music. Like, I think it's an important thing for people to, it's an important experience for people to have around art, you know, where they're involved, connected, and engaged with it. It's important for us to have that, especially in the age of, you know, Spotify and Pandora and you know,
Right.
music being so readily available and thrown around, you know?
Right. Right. Most definitely.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, Shannon, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
yeah, for coming on here. And like I said, we will have a link to your book as well.
Awesome.
And tell me that exact title too,
Sure.
just in case people want to Google it or something.
No problem. It's No Booker, No Bouncer, No Bartender.
Yes.
How I made $25,000 on a 2-month house concert tour, and how you can too.
which they can also find at your website as well, which we'll have a link to too.
Yeah, ShannonCurtis.net. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
I'll see everybody later. Bye.